Our driving interview segment is sponsored by the Traffic T-Shirt Collection.
My name is Harold, spelled Harold, last name Sanders, Sanders. I'm the spokesman for the Arizona Department of Public Safety. The Arizona Department of Public Safety is our state law enforcement agency. We are actually mandated by state law to perform a multitude of functions related to providing safety and patrol in the public highway system, investigation of criminal interdiction of narcotics, organized crime, liquor investigation. We also operate the state crime analysis labs, along with providing resources to the training of police officers statewide. So it's a multitude of functions that the Arizona Department of Public Safety has strictly by law. Now that has been expanded in recent years to now include also immigration enforcement, commercial vehicle enforcement, along with basically an expansion into the types of traffic enforcement that we do. The traffic enforcement picture for Arizona is going to be somewhat different than other states. And specifically why is that the growth of Arizona is phenomenal. We are a state that has been battling for the #1 spot with Nevada, sometimes with Florida, for the most growth. And with growth, it's not just the population moving into an area, it's also that population that moves here with motor vehicles. In Arizona, it's very, very common to find households with at least 2 or more vehicles per household. And that adds to a lot of the volume of traffic on the public streets and obviously the public highways. So with that growth, we have a major challenge, different than a lot of other states that obviously don't have that same type of growth. Now, with growth, you always need to have what we call paradoxically, obviously public service, law enforcement has to grow with it. And that's where our challenge is to have our law enforcement grow also with the population and the transportation needs of the state. The Department of Public Safety is trying very hard to meet the needs of the requirements, not only by state law, but just by the overall public safety mandate that we have in the various areas that we basically have jurisdiction over. Specifically with just the safety and patrolling on the public freeway systems, we're constantly also, as I stated before, with the state growing, we're also growing very much so. We are actively recruiting constantly for more Department of Public Safety officers to place out and mark vehicles, to obviously be a part of this enforcement team, to patrol the public highways, to not only issue citations for traffic violations, arrest people for misdemeanor felony crimes, but also one of our predominant functions is to provide safety in the form of assistance to motorists that are disabled, responding to collision scenes, rendering aid to individuals who are in those collision scenes that have been seriously hurt or minor hurt, and then also here again to investigate those collision scenes fully to ascertain what occurred and, if necessary, bring people to justice for having caused this collision. So our growth is a little bit slower than the population growth, but we're very much aware that our needs are in the way of more personnel, more resources, and of course, one of the things that we do, we have to demonstrate that before the state legislature, who controls basically how much we grow and what our funding resources will be. So we have to demonstrate our need, and that's been very easy because of the growth of Arizona overall. So we are trying to match the responsibilities with the appropriate number of personnel. To begin with, the key issue with a collision where someone is seriously injured or someone dies, this becomes just like any other type of crime where there's property damage along with someone is injured or killed. So it's just, it falls in the same categories as if someone used some type of a weapon, in this case a vehicle, to commit this. The things that we look at, there are ways that you have to look at a collision investigation. One, everybody driving on the public streets, public highways, one, they're supposed to have a driver's license, a valid driver's license, so they must be legally operating a motor vehicle. They must carry the minimum amount of insurance, which unfortunately doesn't cover enough for most collisions, but minimum amount of insurance and of course a valid registration for that vehicle. So that's the initial steps, is to identify basically that the driver should be legally driving, is driving a vehicle that is properly insured and of course properly registered. Then along with that will be the movement or the behavior of that particular vehicle as caused by the driver. One thing that you'll know, I never use the term accident because we don't believe that there are such things as accidents. The issue is that somebody behind the wheel of a motor vehicle made an error. They caused one vehicle to either drive into a fixed object, or for that vehicle to lose control or roll over, or cause that vehicle to run into other vehicles. We call them collisions because accidents, an accident to me would be like a tree falls down on your car while you're stopped at a stoplight, where you have no control over what occurs. Lightning hits your car would be something like that. But people who are behind the wheel of a motor vehicle have control of that vehicle. And then when that vehicle fails to go the right direction, it's because the driver has failed to do something. So those are the things we look at to say that, did you drive at a speed that's greater than reasonable and prudent? Were you driving in and out of traffic? Were you erratic in the way you were operating the vehicle? Did you use safety as your predominant factor when you decide to get behind the wheel and move it down the road? And of course, we've got a number of traffic laws that relate to specifically how you're supposed to move down the roadway safely. Now, let's go beyond that and move into a little bit more serious crimes. Earlier, I was talking with a doctor in reference to driving under the influence. Impairment is a violation of law. You cannot be impaired and operate a motor vehicle. There's a responsibility there. There's a cognitive process to have reached a point of impairment, and then there's a cognitive process to get behind the wheel of a motor vehicle. That's a chargeable offense, and that's a major offense by itself. Now, when you add to it a serious injury or a death, then you can actually raise what are called the stakes as to what can be charged. If the individual is driving under the influence, kills somebody, you do have a homicide. It's vehicular homicide. So it isn't a traffic collision only. It isn't something I'm going to write the person a ticket for. My goal is to investigate this collision, put all the right steps in place for the prosecution to occur for this individual to go to prison. The Photo Enforcement Project began January, actually, so it's been over a year, actually 2 years now since the project initially started in Scottsdale. That project was started by the city of Scottsdale, but it's the first one in the nation to where photo enforcement cameras were placed on a public freeway. Photo enforcement cameras have been in a number of cities throughout the nation, and of course we have had several here within Arizona that have used that technology. Beginning approximately during the fall of last year, we absorbed the project that's on State Route 101, and then now we also have, in addition to the stationary cameras, we also have mobile vehicles in the form of their Ford Escape small SUV, sport utility vehicles, that are equipped with a mobile unit to be able to be stationed anywhere in the state and perform the same function of doing the calculation of speed and the photography. Now, the effectiveness of the project, of the technology, allows that you now have something that operates 24 hours a day. The cameras don't go on break, they don't go on lunch. They only have one function. So they're one-dimensional, unfortunately, because they only have one purpose, and that, of course, is to activate when someone goes over a certain number of miles above whatever that posted speed limit is. A little bit different than with the officer inside the patrol car, who can do a number of things, from saving lives, write tickets for a number of things, or arrest people. It's a one-dimensional function, but it serves a number of purposes in relationship to slowing the public down. And obviously, with the issue of slowing the public down, we do it with the concept, if you don't, you're going to receive a citation for going a certain amount of miles over the speed limit. Now, in a stationary sense, obviously the general public knows where that location is, and of course there'll be compliance generally inside the area where the cameras are located. Well, that's why we also have mobile units, because they're not going to stay in one place. They're going to go to different highways. They're going to be in activation at different times of the day, so the public won't know when they're going to be out there until, of course, they pass one and you see the activation, which is a quick flash of the light. So for us, it's a very effective device for speed enforcement, because here again, that's the only thing we can do with them right now.